It was another version of the same sad story, one we've all heard repeatedly. A young couple, full of dreams and hopes, full of love and passion for each other, got married. As is true of all marriages, they had their ups, they had their downs. But all in all, they and their children had a good life. They had many good years together. But then something that destroys homes at rates greater than hurricanes like Katrina and Rita destroyed their home. It wasn't Katrina. It was Leslie and Pam and then Bonnie and, well, you get the sordid picture. Now, what's worse is that though the husband confessed his infidelity and admitted to his numerous affairs, he actually had the gall to say to his wife, "Honey, I still love you and still take our marriage seriously." Do you buy that? Please. Now, I don't want to judge this man or his heart or his motives, but at the same time, shall I say that I'm a wee bit skeptical about this profession of love to his wife and about his commitment to their marriage. Why? Because of his actions, because of what he did, because he flagrantly broke the rules. The rules? Yes, the rules. There is this idea, especially in our culture today, that if you're in a relationship with someone, then there are no rules. The relationship itself and the emotions that it raises define the parameters. These things alone, your feelings, determine how you behave toward that person. No doubt in any relationship based on love, we do some things not because the rules tell us to, but because we love the other person. I get my wife flowers most every Friday. Not because of some rule, but because I love her. I know that flowers make her happy. And some days when we're getting ready to leave on a long trip, I'll make breakfast. I even try to vacuum the house for Jeannie most of the time. Not because some rules tell me to do these things, but because, well, there are some aspects of a relationship that don't need rules. At the same time, however, certain rules do protect my marriage from the forces that would destroy it. Believe me, if I weren't violating the rules as did that unfaithful husband in my opening example, all the flowers and vacuuming in the world wouldn't save my marriage. What we're discussing here is important because as we've been looking at the Christian life, we've seen that though we're saved by grace through faith, God commands us to obey Him and His law. God's law defines sin. So while we're not called to obey His law to try to be saved, which would be legalism, we are called to obey God and His law because we are already saved. Our obedience stems from our love to God, for the salvation He has wrought for us through Jesus Christ. Yet we hear the idea all around the Christian church today that all that matters is our relationship to God, our feelings. People are saying, in effect, don't give me rules. Don't give me regulations. I have a personal relationship with Jesus. An author writing in the most well-known evangelical publication in the United States, Christianity Today, recently asked, is the personal relationship the end of the story? Or is it part of a greater process whereby we are made wholly new creations? Is being in a personal relationship with Jesus the best way to describe the Christian life? let's understand something right from the start, okay? A relationship with God is crucial. Matthew 22:37, Christianity's most important commandment states, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. Obviously then, relationships are front and center in Christianity. How can you love God if you don't have a relationship with Him? The very idea of love implies a relationship in which emotions have a crucial part. What is love if not at least an emotion? But here's where people go wrong. Sure, love includes feelings, it includes emotions, but love must go beyond them as well. I don't care how great your marriage is, at times you won't feel love for your spouse. So what do? You say, well, I don't feel very loving toward my husband today, so I'm going to see if I can find another man for tonight because I feel like it. Of course not. No marriage worthy of the name would survive that. Love is more than a feeling. Love is also a principle of commitment and integrity and covenant that expresses itself through faithfulness even when one doesn't feel the warm fuzzies. It's a commitment that expresses itself by staying within certain boundaries, regardless of how much you might feel like straying at the moment. A few years ago, a man went through a very hard stretch in his marriage. Now, compounding the problem, a young and attractive woman in the office where he worked made it more than obvious that she was ready to enter into a physical relationship with him. He found the temptation hard to resist because he felt emotionally dead toward his own wife. He felt no love for her whatsoever. Nevertheless, he stood by the law. Yes, by adhering to the cold, hard law of God, regardless of how he felt, he didn't betray his marriage. And guess what? He and his wife worked through their issues, and their marriage is great today. Had he not obeyed that law, who knows where he'd be now? Yes, love needs rules. But I'll be the first to admit that rules also need love. What does that mean? A 15-year-old girl suffered an asthma attack on school property in Texas a few years ago. Her boyfriend, who also had asthma, came to the rescue by letting her use his inhaler. The asthma attack, thank God, quickly passed, and the young girl was fine. However, the story doesn't end here. The school nurse, very much a by-the-rules kind of person, reported the boy to the police, who arrested him for violating the school's no-tolerance drug policy. Can you believe that? Yes, love needs rules, but rules also need love. How fortunate that this balance is exactly what we find in the Bible, in the places where it tells us how we should express our love for God. Like Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 9. Therefore, know that the Lord your God, He is God, the faithful God who keeps covenant and mercy for 1,000 generations with those who love Him and keep His commandments. Do you notice the connection here between love for God and keeping His commandments? Similarly, Deuteronomy 11:13 speaks of diligently obeying God's commandments and loving God and serving Him with all one's heart and soul. Again, an inseparable link between loving God and keeping His commandments. In the New Testament, the Apostle John wrote in 1 John 5:3, "This is the love of God, that we keep His commandments." What is the love of God? That we keep His commandments. I don't see any indication that love and a relationship with God based on love has abolished the need for those commandments. Do you? Certainly not in this New Testament text. This is love, that we walk according to His commandments. 2 John 1:6. Can you see a pattern here? The Bible is saying that feelings and a love relationship doesn't negate the commandments. It is saying rather that we express our love relationship with God through our obedience to these commandments. How then did people get the idea that if we have a relationship with God, we're no longer supposed to keep His law? Where did that idea come from? Certainly not from the Bible. Here's a quote from a famous man who lived during the first half of the 20th century. "If I live my life according to my God-given insights, then I can't go wrong. And even if I do, I know that I have acted in good faith." God-given insights? Acting in good faith? Who was this man of God? It was Hitler. But you say, come on, Lonnie, Hitler wasn't a Christian. That's true. But you see, the principle is still there. This idea that when people think God is leading them, they can do anything. They can even transgress His law. We all know that people have done some horrible things all the while believing that they were acting in good faith on their God-given insights. If only those people had the protection that God's law offers, how much suffering they would have spared themselves and others. Now, certainly as Christians, we need to love God, and we can't love God unless we have a relationship with Him. But how can we have a relationship with Him unless we know Him? And what does the Bible say about knowing God? 1 John 2:3. By this we know that we know Him, if we keep His commandments. He who says, "I know Him," and does not keep His commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. That's Christianity made simple. Salvation 101. It's time now, not this evening, not this morning, not tomorrow, not next week. It's time now to give yourself to Christ, to come to know and love Him, and to show that love through obedience to Him and His commandments.